Now, in your next life,
Okay.
choose between nursing, auxiliary nursing, and choose which one will you go for?
That video has been circulating around the internet for a while, and I have been seeing a lot of takes on it. There have been lawsuits and counter lawsuits. I have watched the video. I am going to give my opinion on it. Now, before we start, quackery is a very serious problem in Nigeria. Nurses are losing jobs, opportunities to quacks. Quacks are causing harms to patients, and every other day on the internet, this is something we are talking about. This could clearly be one of the reasons why a lot of nurses were very angry when that video came out. It seemed to push the narrative that auxiliary nursing is a legitimate thing to be done. But when I watched the video, I began to see some things which we are going to discuss as we go on. The very first question in this video was, what inspired you to be an auxiliary nurse? Now, she said that she felt it was the starting point for her and it gave her an edge. She was attracted by the uniform and that gratitude that patients usually give to people who cared for them when they were sick. She also had an aunt who owned a small chemist shop, so she watched her dispense drugs and give care to patients, and all this collectively piqued her interest and she decided to become a nurse. I'm pretty sure it was at this point she decided to go to a hospital to learn how to do the trade. The next question was, do people hate auxiliary nurses? Her answer was they don't, they misunderstand it. And I agree. Auxiliary or support roles do exist in healthcare worldwide. But unfortunately, auxiliary nursing is quackery in Nigeria. It's not legally recognized. NMCN doesn't recognize it. And that means there is no legitimacy to it. It means if you're practicing it, you are a quack. Mind you, in Nigeria, we currently do have a lot of support roles. There's the health technicians. We even have the community health extension workers to reach out to communities and render care when nurses are not available. These are the currently existing support roles that I know of, not auxiliary nursing. The next question she was asked was, what are the roles of an auxiliary nurse? And in her exact words, she claimed it was a support roles that auxiliary nurses fill in loopholes, little gaps left by the nurses due to workload. And she also said that people tend to erase auxiliary nurses as if the role doesn't matter. As I have said, that support role is very essential in healthcare. There's no way we can have healthcare with just the doctors and nurses running things in hospital settings. There are a lot of support roles. We have the health attendants, health technicians, and so on and so forth. So the role does exist, but that particular role is quackery. It's criminal offense and you can go to jail for it. As we go on in the interview, she was asked, what challenges do auxiliary nurses face? And she said one of the problems she faced, or one of the challenges, was the disregard. And she said especially from the registered nurses, and that doctors didn't really have a problem with it. Obviously, they're the ones training them. It's not just doctors who train these nurses. Nurses train them also, choose. In fact, every single medical role has to play a part in order to make this auxiliary nursing be a thing. It's a lot of people agreeing, because if people stand their ground not to allow this happen, it won't happen. So there's a whole lot of people in the system who actually allow this quackery to take place. Back to the interview. One of her bad experiences occurred in a hospital when she was on duty with two registered nurses. Now, the two nurses were about to step out for a quick lunch break and they refused to leave the keys to the drug tray to her. And she said it made her feel very bad that they were not able to trust her with the keys to the drug tray. And when I watched that interview, I was very happy that the nurses behaved the way they did, because that's literally how you should treat support staff. They are support staff. They're not even supposed to be doing the main job. Their job is just to support. So kudos to those two nurses wherever they are. The next question asked in that interview was the training it takes to make an auxiliary nurse. What was that training like? And she described it. So she said the first step was to go to a hospital, pay for a form, and then you're going to get a scrub of some sort. You pay for your scrub as well. So after that, you begin to get some sort of clinical bedside experience. And this is usually done by doctors, nurses, who allow you, see how the hospital runs, from the basic procedures to wound dressing. And she even added that they were allowed into theaters to see how surgeries were done and everything. So remember when I said earlier, it takes a whole lot of people to agree for this sort of quackery to exist. So a whole lot of medical professionals, registered and licensed, allow this to happen. Please, if you've watched this far, if it's YouTube, just click the subscribe button, like this video so that it can go out to more people, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this auxiliary and nurse debacle. As the interview went on, the interviewer asked her, he said that a doctor once told him that he felt that the auxiliaries were more clinically sound than the registered nurses, and he put it to her like, what was her opinion on it? And she started off saying, well, auxiliary nurses, they get a whole lot of bedside experience, while the uni and college of nursing students do more of theory and all that. The normal line that they usually use. In fact, she's not the only one who has said it. Any auxiliary nurse you mention is most likely going to mention the fact that they think they do more practical, which is so not true. I went to a university, a department of nursing, did 5 years, and let me tell you, we do a whole lot of clinicals. You start your clinicals from 200 level. You go once a week during the session, and then during your holidays, you don't go home. You spend your holidays Mondays to Fridays, you are working. So don't let anybody tell you that, oh, you will not learn the work well if you go through uni. You will not learn the work well. That's not true. 200 level, 300 level, 400, 500 level, that's 4 years. Now, during those 4 years, you are going to get a whole lot of clinical training. And when you're done with that, we also have internship. You're going to do a compulsory 1-year internship with an accredited hospital before you do your youth service. So that's a whole lot of experience if you do things the right way. So experience should not be the reason why you choose auxiliary. You will learn the job, and you will learn it properly if you do things the right way. So during the interview, she was asked, would you advise anyone to study auxiliary nursing? And she said no, she would not advise anyone to study auxiliary nursing or go through that route. Although she did try to chip in that it would be an edge again, or a starting point. Mind you, there are better ways and legal ways to do this. If you are young, you're interested, I think you can volunteer when they are doing this health outreach. You tell them that you are young, you're interested, you're currently looking to get into nursing school. And I think most outreaches will let you join them, observe and do minor things. Maybe they teach you how to check vitals and all that. Those are legal ways to learn, not attaching yourself to a hospital, paying them money to learn a job you're supposed to go to school to learn. Mind you, if you want a real edge, I believe that time and money spent learning the job, you can go and learn another skill that you can use to raise funds while you're in uni. Imagine using that time, you learn how to be a fashion designer, or you learn how to cut hair, how to be a hairstylist, you learn how to operate and run a business. That will be an edge for you when you eventually get into college of nursing, or even anywhere you are. Those are edges. Those are things I think more people should spend their money on, instead of wasting it learning quackery in a hospital. As we dive deeper into the interview, she was asked if we should get rid of the auxiliary nurse role. She said no, the hospitals are short-staffed, the RONs cannot do everything. And I agree with her. That auxiliary and support role can never be gotten rid of in the hospital settings. We always need support. I, as a nurse, I stand with her. Yes, we need the auxiliary roles, not auxiliary nurses, the auxiliary roles, support roles. We need those health technicians, we need health attendants to keep the work running smoothly. One question I loved in this interview was the question that said, are auxiliary nurses taking the job of registered nurses? Now, she said it is the medical/healthcare system that allows this, and hospitals cannot afford RNs. The work is tedious, and auxiliary nurses are cheap labor. My brothers and sisters, tell me, where is the lie? Where is the lie? These auxiliary nurses are cheap labor, and let me tell you the truth. When taught well, they do know how to do the job to a very large extent. So when she said this, I was like, this is it. This is the truth. The system has failed us. The system is allowing this to happen. Do you understand? So if the system actually decides to prevent this from happening, it will stop, or it will reduce drastically. But currently, there are no strict or tight measures against this happening. So it will continue to happen. Nurses will continue to be pushed out of the jobs, and while the auxiliaries will take over nursing positions. Not because there's a shortage of hands. Mind you, every year NMCN graduates nurses in the hundreds of thousands. We are so many skilled hands, but the truth is there's no job. Also, the fact that internship will even freeze many. There are many people that have not started internship, they're just there, skilled, but they don't have the license to work. Went ahead to say it is next to impossible to get rid of auxiliary nurses, that the only thing she would advise is auxiliary nurses should have a scope of practice. They should know their boundaries and be careful not to cross them. She also talked about RNs working with auxiliary staff, guiding and supporting them to learn the work and to also make work smooth. She was asked, would you give anyone who wants to be an auxiliary nurse the advice to do it? She said, don't do it. Don't become an auxiliary nurse. That maybe to get started, which again is wrong. That's not the starting point. But she said it's not something to aspire for. That save up, go to school. And she also added in that funds is one of the reasons why she went into this auxiliary practice. This quackery was one of the reasons she went into it. And that she's currently going to school now. She's a community health extension worker. She also added that she would, if she had her way, she would go for a bachelor's degree, but due to financial constraints, she's currently doing what she's doing. And she also says community health is professional growth for her. She sees it as a growth opportunity. She says she has written exams twice to try and get into nursing, but it didn't work out, so she's currently running a true program. She also says nurses claim choose are auxiliaries. These are just childish banter on the internet. In real life, we work, we choose, we respect them. And everybody has their rules. Now, mind you, community health extension workers are supposed to be in the community. Do you understand? I feel like one of the reasons there's issues with choose sometimes is because they want to claim to be nurses. You are not a nurse. You are a community health extension worker. You are a support. It is a support role that was created, or rather a role that was created. It's a standalone role, not a support role, that was created to help out in the rural areas and the community where nurses are not in abundance. Do you understand? You're supposed to go there and help with healthcare needs in the community. But it's beginning to seem like people want to be nurses, they don't get nursing, they go for the true, and then after that they come back to work in the hospital as nurses. Do you get? So this is why there's always this tension between the professions. In the end, everyone has a scope of practice. If we all maintain our lanes and focus on our scope of practice, healthcare will be better for us, better for the patients too. And some of the solutions we need, honestly, are going to come from the government. We need strict supervision. We need funds, finance. You raise the salary of nurses, they will be happy. You raise the salary of CHUs, they will be happy to do their job. So, all these things put together would make Nigerian healthcare better than it currently is right now. That's all for today. I would love if you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also share in the comments what you think about this whole nurse and auxiliary issue.